Okay, we'd like to open and welcome everybody to the September Templeton Community Preservation Committee. We have a full quorum of members here, and we will roll right into the agenda, which starts with the meeting minutes discussion of our August 8th meeting. Everybody's been provided a copy of the minutes. Chance to refresh and review if you'd like.
I would recommend approving the minutes as written with the exception we need to discuss item number 9 a little further on
Okay,
for clarification.
so item number 9. You mean 6? Oh, yeah, this, the MPZ thing.
MPZ, yeah. and that-
Yeah.
okay.
So the MPZ grant award, item number 6 on your minutes, we'd had a discussion about signing the papers regarding the development that will be happening at the Belleville Elementary School, and there was some back and forth as to a project liaison to ensure that the town's interests are being, taken care of, considered. And so we've gone back with the town attorneys and talked to MPZ. The final statement included is item 9 in the agreement, which states that the CPC may designate a CPC project liaison for the project being funded by this agreement. The project liaison may be either a municipal employee, member of the CPC, or a consultant retained by the CPC for that purpose. The recipient shall cooperate with the project liaison, including providing access to the project site at reasonable times and with reasonable notice. The project liaison shall serve as the agent of the CPC for monitoring project compliance with the terms of this agreement and shall periodically report to the CPC regarding the progress of the project funded by this agreement and the compliance of the recipient with the terms hereof. The CPC may retain consultants to assist the project liaison in monitoring and reviewing project compliance with the terms of this agreement, the cost of which shall be paid by the recipient out of the grant funds or other project funds at the election of the recipient. So basically what it's saying is we will designate an official liaison who will be responsible as the point person for this board. And if there are issues that arise where we need professional services, we can retain those at the cost to the project, which I believe is what we were discussing.
As we read the initial letter that you read last time, it seemed to me that there was a lot of legal issues that were kind of questionable in that. And we needed somebody who had some expertise, both in engineering and maybe the legal aspects of it. So I guess we'd have to be very careful about selecting somebody who had some experience and qualified to do that.
Yes, so the term consultant is fairly broad, and we can really engage in the services. We cannot use town council directly because that's not within their function of town council, but we can seek legal advice from, I guess we have to go through the selectmen anyway, but basically because this is saying that we have grant monies and we can't use these grant funds to pay the town's attorneys. The town's attorneys for town functions can only be paid by the town directly. You know what I'm saying? So there's no apparent conflict of interest. So it's a flow of money thing in that regard. Obviously, if there was a point of contention between the project, the recipient, and the town, then that would be legal services through the town's channels as opposed to through the grant.
This is for a 52-year period, if I remember correctly. I guess
The entire, the quasi loan status of this was a term of 52 years, essentially making it a grant that is open-ended in terms of, and so, really the liaison will be confirming and working with the CPC admin person, to review expenditures and to ensure that compliance is satisfactory. We may even have to reach out, the building inspector obviously will have a vital role in this whole process. Building inspection services, that will all be funded separately from our domain. That's the building department's domain. And the funds for that will also come from the grant because it's a huge cost to the town to have to do all those inspectional services for such a big project. And so that's how the town can address those issues by the building permit So you know, it's gonna be, it's a long-term project for sure on the finance, but also on the development and the construction.
It's kind of a loose agreement, but if everybody's comfortable with it, I would.
Yeah, well, frankly, going forward, I think this is, you know, it's been addressed. You know, if something comes up, we can always rework it. There is also statements in here about severance and all that other rigmarole you need to put in there, but I'm comfortable with it, and if everybody else is comfortable with it, we'll go forward.
I make a motion, we accept them.
Accept the minutes as clarified.
Okay,
As well, yeah.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay, admin update. Do we have anything?
I was just gonna say that, you and I gotta get the CP3 report in.
Yes, so the CP3 report, which is what goes into the Department of Revenue, is due on September 15th. And
Yep.
you know, if you wait till like today, they send everybody who hasn't submitted a reminder. So I had a couple of questions regarding whether the Drapes project was officially closed or the tennis courts were closed. There's still some residual balance in there. So rather than report them as finished and closed, because I know like with the pickleball courts, we still need to do a sign. And we believe the Drapes are done. And the final invoice has been made, but there's no harm in just saying that's ongoing. And so basically, when we leave tonight, I'll go home, I will incorporate the projects that were voted on this year. We will close out some projects, such as the Houghton Park, you know, study. And whatever ones you had on the list.
Yep, that were closed out this year.
Yeah,
Dwelly Farm, 2019, the Affordable Housing, 2020, Emergency Management Building Study, 2022, the Grange Hall, 2022, Master Plan for Houghton Park, 2023, and Scout Hall, 2019.
yeah, so those will all be cleared off the books, and we'll still have all these other ones to keep going on, and that will get submitted on time. And we still don't know what the whole match situation is in terms of, you
Right.
know, our projected versus what it actually will be, and that will come in November. November 15th. It used to be October 15th, but like everything goes later. So is that it for admin? Any other questions or anything at this from Jessica? Then we roll right into the CPC finances.
Yep, so there's your financial report, which includes your project accounts and the larger buckets. I didn't really notice a significant change from last month's report that I ran.
Yeah, and generally, you know, the revenue comes in when the quarterly tax bills are due. And then they need to get posted, et cetera. The big match thing will obviously bump these right up when we receive that.
Like the
So,
difference in revenue from last month to this month was only like 7,000.
yeah, so that's
That's like taxes coming in.
okay. And so any questions or comments on that?
I just wanted to ask, are we going to, with the Stone Bridge, are we going back at another bite? Or, I mean, how many times do we go to the floor with that?
I think we have to have a discussion about what the reality is of those, or whether those funds need to revert back, and we did just recently get some guidance from the coalition about closing out projects. You know, it's a little different when you have, you know, a project that's done and you have money left over and you close it out versus projects that never, you know, that were voted on at town meeting on 2 separate occasions. So we just need to make sure that we do that in the, you know, we don't, I don't know where it's gonna go, but it doesn't seem like it's happening to me.
They wanted a traffic bridge. They keep on putting, how many times do we put this on the floor?
Well, there's been you mean in terms of whether people want to drive over it or not? It's been
Yeah,
over
wanna
twice.
walk. Well, this one
Yeah.
is for walking bridges, right?
Right, well, the question at the town meeting floor is whether the town should discontinue the road and prohibit it from staying, and there's never been a decision on that, and that's really
They were non-binding votes anyway,
yeah.
informational only, so.
What, we could call a meeting with the select board, or I could talk to the TA and see what he suggested we do going forward. You know,
Yeah.
obviously, there's a significant amount of money committed here that could either be used or freed up, so I don't know. Any other questions or comment on the finances?
Well, just to add and to clarify that, this CPC money that's labeled Stonebridge couldn't be used for a traffic bridge, correct?
Correct, right, yeah.
So it would have to be used.
If they decide to
If
go
and once the
forward
road got
through the
dedicated.
20-year process of getting
Yeah.
state money for a bridge, you know, there certainly can still be accoutrements that would be satisfied by these funds, such as a
Mhm.
boat launch and recreational area, but certainly not a throughway, you know. And
I
so,
I just noticed it was the only thing that hasn't like moved or done anything.
In
so it's the
decades,
only
yeah.
thing On the list, I mean, because we cleaned up the other stuff, so that's good.
any other questions or comments on the finances? Hearing none, we'll move on to the current projects. One thing that we do need to consider, and perhaps we could put this on your calendar to talk to Adam about what the process needs to be for us to get those engineering services underway for the MEMA building.
Okay.
For other projects that we have ongoing, we've heard from Bob that he's received some of the materials for the Baptist Common access, and I believe he said the fencing will be arrived next week, and probably they'll be working on that in the next week or two. They've also, the cupola project was awarded, and they've started that project up above. The library has had some additional work done. So far, they've only spent, $280 or something. But there's been discussion of that. I know the trustees are meeting, next month or the end of this month. Yeah, the drape restoration, we believe is done, and then the bathrooms are essentially done. All that the Grange Hall bathrooms are waiting for is similar to the tennis court, is the final signage and keeping the money available to put the signs.
How's the Grange got this?
Grange got the small placard that indicates that it's a, the minimalist funded by CPA. We had talked about doing a historic informational sign as part of it too. That would be positioned elsewhere.
Okay.
And so,
Yeah, that's the 13 that's left there.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it won't, obviously it won't take all that, but,
No.
so that $543 must have been the plaque.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and we know Houghton Park, they're supposed to start working on that soon, right?
Yeah, the stuff was supposed to roll in this week, the equipment, we're just waiting for it.
I drove by that today, not there.
Yeah, well, they better get it there, because they do have some rules if they don't get it there soon.
Yeah, because that's something that's driven by the state, because that's the beauty of that project is we're gonna get a huge state reimbursement when they're done, but they gotta be done by June 30th and all bills
Goal is
paid.
to Go for another one of those grants to keep on going until we finish that park, go through the master plan for it.
Yeah, the Grange Hall lift, we had the agreement that the procurement could be made of the device. That's why you see an expenditure there, and then the installation will be the balance. So
Mhm.
whenever that happens, I know they're very anxious to wrap that up. And they did indicate that they have had discussions and are seeking some external funds to improve the egress for handicapped accessibility to the rear of the building. And of course, they are space constrained there,
Yeah.
like other buildings are. And First Church, we're trying to schedule a meeting with the folks down there.
I thought he emailed me back that nothing's gonna happen till spring. That he was getting everything lined up. He had weddings and stuff.
Well, he was saying that there was like
So-
something through the end of October, and I
Yeah.
was suggesting we at least need to have a sit down so
Yeah.
that we can kind
Yeah.
of map it out. But yeah, nothing's
Yeah.
happening.
Said that
until-
they were having weddings at the church and they didn't want like construction materials.
And then you're into the
No wedding
winter and you don't
photos.
want to be,
Right.
taking a
Work on.
steeple down and 40-mile winds or whatever. Yeah, but we still want to just make sure that we're
Oh, absolutely.
confirming
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
process by which the funds are distributed.
Yep.
Because it's a lot of money and we need to make sure that we can do that. So, does anybody else have anything they want to bring up about current projects?
I think Dwelly Farm, we're still trying to get a replacement contractor for the invasive plant removal. So we're still working on that.
Thank you.
In any discussion of the mowing?
No, we
The
didn't
timing,
talk about that
okay.
today, no.
Just because I know last year they didn't get to mow it and, there was some funds for mowing, but I do know people with mowers, so we can talk about that.
Okay.
Uh, not as a, like, if they can't get anybody to do it, I'll drive over there and do it.
Yeah.
Not charging them. Everybody else, no money. Okay, thank you, Carrie. Anybody else have anything for current projects? Okay, so the next item is under the potential projects. The special town meeting warrant is set to close today. And the town administrator knows that we have this meeting tonight. And so, and of course, the select board is not gonna vote on these for some time anyway. So, if we decide to go forward with this, we can submit it to them. Okay, and so Candace has put together, through the rec committee, a request for funding, $85,500. You guys have all have it. Kat, do you want to just roll with it, or?
Yeah, it's just, it's replacement fencing for when you come into the park, that first, softball field, one of the quotes we have here, the gentleman was one of the many floaters in the last 10 years, and they have been telling us that needs to be replaced. And then, a dugout for that field, and then over to the left would be field 3, and that's the same, would be similar project, and then, field 2 is, near the concession stand, and that is because the piece is too low, and they recommend that we go higher, because the people sit right there, and the ball keeps on coming over to them, and it's a liability, so. But, the girls, and different, like kids climb the fences, sometimes they're not supposed to, but they do. They hang their bags, their bats and stuff, and because the fences are in very, very bad shape. We're just worried if they bowed out, and you can see, I don't know if you can make out some of these pictures. I think on the online version you guys were sent was a lot better to see, but it's in pretty bad shape. The town apparently was working on possibly, working on it, in the last 10 years, and nobody ever, just kick the can. And it's just one of those things, you keep on kicking it, it's not gonna be a good thing. If you can see, like in this picture, you probably can see better in these colored ones. You can see how the fencing is in that shot, how it's bowed out. There's some more, the colors I think are a lot better. I printed some of them the best I could, so you guys can see them. And would be the area where the dugouts would go. So right now they just have a bench there. And it would also, having nicer dugouts and nicer fencing and stuff would attract more, like, Babe Ruth has been interested in trying to do a softball tournament with us down there, having the 3 fields, but in the condition that those 2 fields are, we're just not gonna be able to get it until we can improve it.
Where it isn't going.
Does that mean revenue? If the fields are improved and you get
Yeah,
outside?
if the fields are improved, we believe that we'll get more interest in booking the park, in which, if you're doing a tournament, that would be more revenue concession stand, more revenue, fee based. If a tournament came in, we would charge a fee for them to come in and use the property. So that's like a baby type of event. It's also nice to have dugouts too when you're walking around, when something happens, but otherwise you can duck in, unexpectedly too. So, a lot of families like to play kickball down there. They just show up if it's empty. Maybe they had a little thing close by, a little family reunion, and they just come down there and play something. So they get quite a bit of use. But those 1 and 3 are in very, very bad shape, and we catch kids all the time trying to climb them. And like I said, the girls hang on them when they're, watching, they, batting and stuff, and they're just not in the greatest shape. And it is a liability.
Okay, so, yeah, so you see the request here. Now, one thing that we need to be aware of is that, the projected funds, and we don't know exactly where we stand because of this matching, what the final number will be for the state match. we do have a lot of projects going on right now. We have reduced the list. This is a very much a needed, project in terms of, dugouts and fencing. We're also doing the Houghton Park thing. And then that will be done and that will free up some more money when that's completed. We've got to jump in on, these other projects that are new, like the church. And that's why I'm almost thinking that maybe we may want to put this off till May.
The thing is, you put it off to May, and then we can't get working on it until, it probably won't be until the following spring. I can't see us working on it in the fall, to get, bidders in the fall for a project like this. We have a better shot, spring to summer to get bidders on a project like this with the fencing. So it could be almost 2 years by the time, the fencing is replaced if we wait. And that's the only reason why I brought it. I thought a lot about this, and we talked to my commissioners about it. And they wouldn't ask me brought it if they didn't believe the same thing too. Based on, our experience and with, how long it's taken to go, like when we did the tennis courts and Houghton Park. That's why we're asking now, because we feel like it takes time to do these things, and we don't want to wait another, 2 years to have it replaced. We think that would be a mistake.
It certainly does take a lot of time, and the timing, is better to have it funded sooner so you can go through the process. Another concern that was been brought to our attention just today was, is there an issue related to handicap parking down there that's been buzzing around?
We
ADA
have been putting
compliance?
lots of signs up there, and actually I have more signs that I just brought down there to put more signs up. We made a new opening over near the T-ball that wasn't ever our new T-ball field that, basically that was all done. We didn't ask nobody for any funds for that. That has all been done with what we have down there, to make that T-ball field. But yeah, we have more to go up on that front end near field 1, that will be going up, probably middle of next week.
I would say I'm not at all clear on what the requirements are
For the ADA?
for ADA. We have currently 6 identified parking spaces for handicap, all immediately adjacent to a break in the fence that allows people to go get into the park. The way that the parking is laid out up there, it's come first served, and there's more parking than you can shake a stick at. I would like some guidance on how many and what locations signs have to be if there are ADA requirements. So they just keep putting up signs till somebody's happy, or is there a number that we're supposed to reach? Is there a number that's supposed to be within proximity of gates? I don't
Supposedly
know.
there is a distance that needs to be met, and I only got some note about that today.
You
Now,
know,
I'm not sure who our ADA compliance
officers.
is that it end up with, that's
Yeah, I
Bob?
think it's
Yeah,
Bob,
there's a big book, and I seen it in the office yesterday because I got the
I
email.
mean, we have signs to put up, but I just don't want to throw them up willy-nilly.
Right,
Let's figure out what we have to have and where we have to have it before we put them up.
Well, I have pages what they gave me out of the book, so I haven't read through them yet for Houghton Park, and I don't know, Cottage.
well, the
Lane.
reason that I bring it up now is because we're talking about the Gilman Waite property, and if they're, making ADA compliance of a recreational area is something that could be funded.
Mhm.
Even in addition to, better, you could even have some, better pathways even. We could even do paving and things like that. Obviously not under this project,
Yep.
et cetera, et cetera. I just, that was just, it's something that we need to make sure that we do address where best we can as to the requirements that I don't know either.
Yeah, the only thing about they talked about the park was about the handicap. They didn't have any other things that they were talking about, but I haven't gone through the whole report. But I guess we have many years to complete, because it's all, building, books, it's everything in the town. It's in this giant book that we have to go through and do little by little.
That's why they have the compliance officer. Bob should be the one telling us what we have to do. We shouldn't be trying to read it ourselves or guess. We should be hearing from our compliance officer what we need to do.
And perhaps that's something that we could talk about before next May's meeting, is that if there are, if, you know, we've got this book from when I was a selectman, and then they were Xeroxing before then, and I know it's been updated or whatever.
Mhm.
If we wanted to do a comprehensive project that would address ADA needs across the town at different public facilities, you know, that's something that's gonna take some research and some development, and it may be something that we could do next year. So
Mhm.
I got us off track on this. We're talking about, we're going back to the proposal at hand, which is to submit this article for the special town meeting this year.
Did we get any competitive bids on this?
Yeah, well, we got a lot of doors thrown at us too, because they went and looked many times and got many bids and quotes. And they don't wanna talk to us anymore because we got many bids and quotes over the last 10, 20 years about replacing the fencing, but that's all I could get.
I mean, $65,000 for fencing, that's probably twice the length of this room.
It's about $20,000
Oh, no,
$20,000
it's
a
more than
fence.
twice long.
Well, you're not just talking,
You're talking about 3 baseball fields.
40 feet, it says.
yeah, you're talking about the big things too behind that go up.
Yeah, this is the backstop.
Right, and the one that's gonna go,
This is just 40 feet.
the one that goes over near, field 3 is gonna be higher because of the way the house is too. It's so, right now it's too low and it needs to go up higher because there's a house right off that road right there too. And doesn't have any protection to go that way. These were all based on when they came up. That they had told them, like 10 years ago that they needed to go up higher there too because of the way the housing was.
You know, I
Has the
understand the need.
baseball ever hit that house?
I
In
don't know.
40 years?
I have no clue.
You know,
Probably
just
hear about
because
it if they did.
the fencing company tells you you need a high fence, they might be just employing salesmanship.
Well, I guess I could see the 10-foot height requirement.
Yep.
But just 40 feet of that fencing that high seems like 65,000 is an awful
Mm.
steep price for that.
Well, it'll go to bid too, so it's, I mean,
Isn't that the total, Candace?
yeah, it's a total for all the whole.
That's not
project.
just that
Yeah,
one side of the
Yeah,
fence.
that's all the
whole
fencing, it's
project.
all the project.
Well, it just says here, to replace the backstop
It's all of
at
it.
the
It's-
field.
That price is for field 1, field 3, and field 2. All that is all the fencing for all 3, all
3 baseball fields,
3 fields.
Oh.
backstop and
Yeah, all
sidelines.
of it.
okay.
Yeah.
So
that's
the,
breakdown of
the
that, yeah.
confusion is whether, you know, so it's
Just,
40 feet of tall fence, 10-foot tall, but it's also the perimeter fence.
Yes.
it doesn't, yeah, this doesn't specify the perimeter fence here.
Yeah, it's what's right there. It's the same
Unless I
blueprint. They'll
missed it
pull that
someplace.
out, they'll replace what's currently there, so it'll start where the end is.
Yeah.
If you can see some of the pictures in the dugouts, you can see how it comes down the end and then it goes up and then you have the backstop and it comes down. So that's the whole section of one field and then the second field, it mirrors that.
Yeah, it would certainly be clear if we knew what the total lineal feet
Yeah,
of fencing.
it's-
That gentleman would have had that, and they didn't provide that to me when they gave it. He measured everything. And the pros coats were based, I mean, they came down there with measurement tape. And they measured all the fencing when they came up with it.
The pictures show the rest of the fencing, but in
Yeah.
that statement, it doesn't include that.
I don't know if it was in one of the bids, let me know.
And then the dugouts, it's on the flip side of that, they say $9,800 material and labor per dugout. It says roofing to be shingled, so I'm assuming that includes the roofing,
Yeah.
because the other guy said he didn't have a roofing thing.
Yeah, so yeah, one is doing that and the other one is doing the shingles and the roofing, yeah,
And so the labor includes the full installation.
yeah,
Obviously, you know, if this were to be funded, it has to go out to bid anyway.
yeah. And doesn't mean these people would be the ones doing it.
Be
And it would
specified.
come up lower. The pickleball court came down lower than it was supposed to too.
Okay, so,
So in our, where it's under buckets, in the last column, is that what we have available in the different, right now? In the different categories? Like in my reading, we have 71,000 in open space and 436 and undesignated? Is that what that means in our finance sheet?
So I was gonna follow up a finance question too. The three projects that y'all approved were 387,000, and when we talk at the time, you were projecting what would come in.
We were
Right.
projecting for whatever the article was,
Okay.
454.
All right, so we were projecting 400,000. We approved projects for 387, and we've only gotten 69,000 so far.
Yes, so
Right,
this is
so-
just through what, I mean, the year started at July
Agreed.
1,
Yep.
so 1 quarter, yeah.
So 1 quarter, we got
And then the-
70,000 to cover our $387,000 project, so.
So for you projected that out and said that was 1 quarter of what the revenue from the town would be, that would be 280,000, then plus
Yeah.
whatever the state match
Match would
is. We
be.
were
You would
predicting the
make
state
it,
match
yeah.
could, I think I forget the exact percentage, 75% is what we
Yep.
indicated.
But timeline wise, isn't that not till,
No, that comes
Like-
November 15th,
okay, okay,
if it's, supposed to
okay.
come to the town, so the
What's
money.
currently in those accounts minus those projects that we voted for?
Well, I think that's kind of what I'm trying to point out is that we don't have all that right here, right now. We've only got 70,000 so far for this quarter, right?
Right, so what we don't have from here, so we show that we have $3.3 million in the whole,
But that's all the projects plus the buckets put into there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the buckets are also based on projections and not actual revenue, not
Correct.
received as yet. Now, the building from the town, we know is gonna be good and accurate because
Yeah.
that's, and there will be new growth in addition to in the year. We
Mhm.
don't know about like I said, the match. We do know that we will at some point receive back, the 91,000 or whatever it is from the Houghton Park. What is that line item?
Yeah, 96 those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 96,000 there, knowing the state, and their reimbursement, that reimbursement will be sometime next year.
That's not 100% though, is it?
Right, that represents you'll see there's two articles, 41,000 which came out of recreation. Reflects what the town's contribution finally will be. The 96,000 represents the entire reimbursement from the state. Which is the 70 something percent of the whole project, whatever that number was, 60.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's close.
So I guess my point as your admin, since people submit invoices to pay their projects, I think it's a great project. But can we project that we can cover it
Yeah.
and cover everything else is my question.
I have a question, and I realize this is still in limbo. But if we decide, Stonebridge, that money probably came out of open space recreation initially, correct?
There's
If we end up closing those out and putting the money back in, that's almost enough for the project. That's $83,337.
Can we
yes.
do that, though? I mean, can we just decide to,
Well, that's where we have to have the formal discussion to make sure we do the process that would,
okay,
meet the will of the town, whether that needs to go back to a town meeting vote to be rescinded or it's just canceled.
Well, you don't have to take it back to if you guys want to close a project, you as a board have the ability to do that. You did that
We-
on the housing thing that you.
Well, I
said
mean,
it
I
was
think
no
we have
longer
pretty
useful.
clear guidance that at least town meeting
Yeah.
is not very interested in pursuing a walking path or
Or
anything else.
recreation area. They didn't want to discontinue it.
Right, you
Yeah.
didn't want
They
to.
didn't, yeah.
They didn't want to
They
discontinue the
road.
possibility of
And
it
there's been
ever.
2 votes to that
Yeah.
conclusion. So,
And there were only 2 people that spoke up for that, so I don't
Yeah.
know how.
Yeah,
strong it is.
I just see this, these funds in limbo.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening. We have projects coming in that need to be covered. That's pretty darn close
who
to,
sponsored those projects?
This was Stonebridge?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I was involved in putting those forward.
Yeah, okay.
It wasn't in a formal
It was quite a while.
It wasn't
back,
the
yeah.
selectmen or the conservation
No.
commission or, no,
Right, that was 2019 and 20.
yeah.
And it was all, because at the time, the indication was that the town was gonna discontinue
Yeah,
the road, and
you're
then
right.
the road's basically shut.
Yeah.
They weren't gonna bother with, we went through the whole process.
Yeah.
We even did a study before this
Yeah.
that spent money on the engineering
Yeah.
to say, these are the options, and then when we got those options, we said, okay, let's do a project, which would be like a recreational bridge,
Yeah,
you know, boat launch, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, you know, at this point, that's 5 years later, you know, we probably should get off the pot on that one.
right, and with two town meeting votes where there's no
Yeah.
interest in discontinuing the road. I mean, seems pretty clear cut to me.
Yeah.
Is that on the agenda for this coming meeting?
They were pretty-
I doubt it.
Is what on the agenda?
We don't know what's on the agenda, the warrant for
Yeah, the
special
Yeah,
town
we don't
meeting?
warrant.
I would highly suspect not.
Okay.
But getting back to this article, you know, we are at, you know, we've never been to the point where we're so uptight with, you know, the fiscal constraints of the funds that we have, because we've always been so conservative. Now, we've obviously done a huge commitment towards the, you know, MPZ project in Mullen Elementary, and that's what's put us where we are today, where we can't take every good project, you know, and move it forward. I believe we could probably find the funding because of the timing of the events and what we might have to do in the
Mhm.
process. The question is, do we want to, you know, put another project out there for the town to have to
Yeah.
complete in this fashion?
Well, if it's helpful or not, the timeline for Baldwinville Elementary School will be next spring, that they will be starting. That's when I will start seeing invoices for the project.
I would.
And I
would-
think First Church as well. I mean, I know we should have a sit down with them, but they're indicating that spring is when they would like to start. So those
All
are,
right, so
those are
is
like
it-
your
is it
5 big
agreed
buckets.
That if we don't do the Stony Bridge projects, if we were to discontinue those, would that money go back into usable money that could then be used for Gilman Waite?
Yes, because those funds would have come from either the open space / recreation and or the undesignated
Designated.
reserve.
So
What's his name?
the
You would
action
have to-
item would be that you're gonna talk to the town administrator about what's happening with Stony Bridge? Is that what you're going to do?
I will certainly entertain that. I'm not, yeah.
Well, the reason I'm asking is if that's what we're hung up on right now, not knowing what the direction is gonna be on Stony Bridge, I would make a motion that we table this request until we have that answer. And once we're armed with that answer and we find out, say we find out the money's available, then we can go back and look at it and say, yeah, we can do that now. But if on the other hand, there's no clear-cut answer to Stony Bridge, then we can't.
However, the other thing to remember is, you know, the warrant is due,
Okay.
it'll be closed, and it won't, so it would then come to the May town
Yes.
meeting, which we'll have another tranche of funding available.
Mhm.
So,
And we'll know about Stony Bridge.
right.
Well, they said
So
they
really,
wanted to scrap
the
it
issue
first.
is getting it in the,
They knew we were gonna-
in the train, in the flow, you know, getting the process. So that, you know, I mean, frankly, by the time the bid documents are prepared and everything goes out and the work is gonna be done, it's gonna be, you know, next year anyway, but if we were to vote it now, then that process would have been completed and then the work could start in the spring, summer, whatever. That's where Candace is coming from.
I get that.
Yeah, okay,
But we're not sure about the Stony Bridge money.
correct.
Personally, I'd rather hold Joanne's suggestion in reserve in case we've got a couple of other projects here that could end up costing more money, like First Church.
Get these big
Uh,
middle things from the
This
state
could
that
be a
farther away.
reserve
Put
fund that we
those
could
in
fall
Stony
back on if we needed to have funding for some of these other
That would be
projects that are already
no project up in
in the pipeline.
But they want sidewalks and everything. The
So what
state-
we need to do tonight is decide whether we want to go forward with this article for the fall special town meeting.
I think I'd rather wait myself personally. I don't know about how anybody else feels.
Yeah, at this point, I just don't see that we can go forward on the fall. Unless there's clear money to be available.
Same here, I can't see, there's no clear money, we're not sure if money's gonna really be there, so it's hard to do it.
It's a project worth funding, but I don't know.
Okay, anybody else want to chime in? So, one thing that delaying it would be able to, we could get some, also some additional pricing and perhaps some expansion if there's some needed, other work at Gilman to propose for May.
You mean handicap stuff?
Yeah, for example, or, So we can have a vote.
So what do you
if-
need?
Well, if somebody wants, if Kenneth, if you want to make a motion to go forward with this, and then we would need to get it seconded and voted on to go forward.
Well, if you say there's no money, then we can't go for it because there's no money.
Well,
It's uncertain.
it's uncertain.
I thought when I had seen these numbers, I would have never brought it forward because I had thought that that was the money, even with the church and everything taken out. I didn't realize that that was, when I was reading, wasn't the
Well,
money.
so at the meeting that you guys voted on the three most recent ones, the Grange Hall lift, the first church reno, and the engineering one, the
Right,
discussion was those three added to 387, and the projected revenue to receive was gonna be around 400. But that doesn't completely come in until the end of June 2025. So we're only 1 quarter in, we've only received about 70,000, right? So the chair's simple numbers, right? 70,000 times 4, right? You got 280,000, then you do some type of state match, you're at the 400,000 that was projected. We're just not there right now. Not every resident in town pays all their taxes at once.
but
and the
that- but
treasurer's
that
office doesn't
projected-
receive it.
But that projected money
That
is
projected,
definitely coming in,
that projected money was gonna cover the three
right?
that you already voted on and that the town already accepted.
But all the money that's sitting in all the other buckets and all
The,
this.
all the ones that are in the
Like Stonebridge
projects have
money
been,
is sits physically there. It's-
Right.
That's what
It
I
would
was
have to be
saying. Even if
decommitted.
you don't use it, it's still physically there. I'm
right,
just wondering what was physically come, you
the
know,
projects have been committed.
Would this be the place to make a motion, maybe to table this until spring?
Okay,
I do so.
Second.
okay, a motion's been made and seconded to table this until spring. Let's do a roll call vote, starting with George Barnes.
Yes.
Well, point of clarification,
You know,
we don't have to table it until spring.
table, not submitted to this.
Right,
town
I
meeting.
mean, not to be decided tonight, to be decided when we have all the information. That could be next month, it could be the month after. It'll still push it back into the annual town meeting.
But we still won't have clarification on total finance until spring.
Right, but what Mike is saying is if they call another special town meeting, we don't want to prohibit, say they have to have
Oh,
one in
okay.
Yeah.
January.
Yeah,
All right, so let's just table it for now then?
Table, so not submitted for the warrant that closes tonight,
right.
Right, okay,
okay?
clarification.
Yeah, thank you, Mike, because I
Okay.
mean, we've had more than one special town meeting in a year,
Yes.
and you never know, because they still gotta, certify and all that other rigmarole.
So the motion made by Dennis and seconded by Mike was to not submit this for warrant tonight.
Correct. Is that correct, Dennis?
Yes, I.
Okay, so that,
Yes,
yes, Dennis,
Yes,
I'll vote yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Joanne, Carrie,
regretfully, yes.
I'm
Candace,
just gonna say no.
okay.
On behalf of my commission.
Yeah, no, we appreciate the work that you do and the hard work that went into this and all the other projects you have going on. And, we could, the money eventually will be there, but the timing. So this will just, we'll put it at the top. This will be the first one we discuss next time we discuss projects. Okay, so we're moving on to the next item, which would be chair member comments, chair. I don't have any comments other than I'll do that CP3. Would anybody else have any comments they would like to make?
does anybody know anything about what's going on with Scott Hall?
Like what?
Like what? It's, Scott Hall is, going to be tabled for, the scouts for a bit because of the parking issue, because it doesn't have a handicap accessible. And, so they did do like an open, like a registration yesterday, but they decided last night that they'll wait until then.
Aye.
CCTV's in it, there's a whole controversy, well, I don't know if controversy is the word, but there's a whole thing of where TCTV, how they store their stuff, how the scouts come in. And then the fact that it's not just scouts that can be in there, the way that it was voted on by the town, it's anybody that would wanna, basically book it to do something in it too. So you have that whole aspect too, that nobody wants to really talk about, so.
Yeah, so it's essentially it is, it's the parking issue is as well as the space issue and so is that what the
Right.
selectmen decided last night?
Yeah.
Okay,
I watched
It's,
part of
it's
that.
always had no parking issue. That's why TCTV was perfect for it, because they don't have a lot of
not open to the public, you don't
Yeah.
have all the requirements of
Yeah.
ADA compliance.
buy-in and all that, so.
I almost got the sense though from last night's meeting that they'd like to try to push Templeton TV out of there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So I
Well, you
don't know
got
if it
that
would be
sense right.
time for the committee to submit another letter.
We are done with that.
Yeah.
That is a selectman's issue. The funding came to the CPA, but buildings and grounds belong to select board.
I have a question. We
Here's what
skipped
email
ahead
office.
here. So we had potential projects and we talked about Gilman.
Oh,
Waite.
okay, yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I jumped right over and didn't ask for any other potential projects.
There you go.
Do we have any other potential?
Well, that may
projects?
affect monies also, because if there are other projects, where do they fit in the grand scheme of? things?
Certainly, yes, thank you for bringing that up, Mike.
Depends on what you want.
Obviously, we won't be voting any projects tonight, but are there any, and as far as like Joanne brought up the issue related to the dam thing, and I brought that to Graceland's attention.
Mhm.
And they're still waiting to actually get the announcement that those funds might be available, which should be an assistance. It's no money from us on that point at this time. Open space is always a question that things could come up. There are discussions of, conservation efforts within the community in actually the, multi-towns. So I don't know that would have anything to do directly with us either, but certainly it might have something to do with our open space plan. If it was to be some funded project,
Okay,
do like a landscape partnership thing or something.
but there's
Some-
nothing else that we know of that's on the radar right now that,
2.3 million for MEMA.
The master plan to complete for Hooten Park someday, getting more park.
Yeah, and
land.
that's in, because I know Mr. Brio had talked about raising money for the Vietnam Memorial, and, we should continue to consider that is gonna wanna go forward next year.
Well,
Can
we
they
don't
get,
have
can they
figures on
get
that.
CB
Right.
funding for like a memorial like that from us?
Well,
For Heroes Park? I didn't know
part
if
of-
that was part of the thing you could do.
Yeah, if it's part of a passive recreation park thing, we'd have to see what the fine line would be, but certainly like the layout, the walking path, the monument itself, that's a perfect thing for a fundraiser.
Right,
They raise the money for that, they pay for that. But CPA could pay for, all the curbing, the walkways, the ADA parking, the compliance.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff and a lot of.
So that's another good
things.
point. And then if we are gonna look at the whole ADA, situation within town, there may be other projects that come up.
Mhm.
Does anybody else have anything that off the top of their head?
Historical Commission has been, discussing, surveying the town common. I talked to Justice Graves, he said there is no, official map of the common. So we really don't know the boundaries of the common. It kind of just grew and,
We did a survey of it back.
Yeah.
at Common Improvement Committee.
yeah, but that's that small chunk in front of the fire station. Even if you include that, the rest of the common is not done.
Well, they did go down through on Boynton.
I'm
Road.
sorry?
They went down Boynton Road and around. I don't know how far he got.
All
He
I
got-
can tell you is that the assessor tells me that there's no map of the common.
If you have a chance, we want to talk to Bob Boylan about that.
To who?
Bob Boylan.
Is he the assessor?
No, he was, he
That's
was
my
on,
point here is,
he
the
was on the
assessor should
committee
know
with-
if there's a map of the common, and
when he was
There's
on,
not one
we
in the
were,
office.
he was on the committee with us. And he was the one that.
I was on it too.
You were, but I don't know if you were there during the time they did that, were
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But they did do a survey. They had, I can't remember the fellow's name.
There are some granite markers that are in the common.
Passed it into the assessor's office.
There are some granite markers that look like they were put there by a, people who do the measurements, what am I trying to think?
Surveyors?
Surveyors. They look like surveyors.
Now, this guy was a surveyor. I can't remember his name, but
Zoc.
it wasn't Zog, no. It was somebody kind of,
The long and the short of it, it doesn't matter if anybody did it, it's not recorded with the town, so
Oh.
we don't have anything official.
okay.
So we do have we have a map of the historical, district.
Yeah.
And what that includes. We have a map, the zoning map, which shows you the village district in Templeton Center. But we do not have an assessor's map, which outlines the footprint of the common. So if you're looking to go to get funding to work on projects, you can't go back to a legal document that says that where it is.
Right. You probably remember the issue we had with Mrs. Stone's property there, but it was, I can't remember the name of the restaurant originally, or whatever it was. Remember the
Country mischief.
But yeah.
Country Mister, I guess that's what it was.
Well, that's one of the reasons that we're interested in it is it's hard to protect something you can't define.
Right,
So the historical commission is charged with protecting the historic resources of the town. But if you can't say whether that section of land is in the
okay.
common, you wanna call it that, and it's not surprising, I mean, the common grew up out of history, you know,
I'm sure.
1700s onward, you know. So you may actually have to back into it, you may have to say, okay, we don't have an outline of the common, but we have an outline of all the properties that
Everybody
surround the common. So that means whoever does the work is gonna do a lot of digging down in winter.
Right.
And it's gonna be kind of a costly effort. So I would put that on the radar. You know, at some point, it's gotta get done. I mean, I don't know how we don't have a assessor's map of the common.
And even if we did find, like, somebody had it squirreled away and just never gave it to the town, it probably would still benefit to get it in this new electronic format
Yeah.
and GPS,
Yeah.
you know, guided. So if there's any way that we had somebody that could come up with some cost estimates, I mean, we know it's gonna, it may end up being a projection of hourly work.
Yes, right, yeah. So we would have to get quotes on how long it would take to do a project of that scope.
And the deliverable being the, you know, the formatted thing that the town would then record, et cetera.
Right.
Because there are lots of potential projects as well. You know, we've talked in
Mhm.
the past about, you know, granite curbing or who owns what, you know, even Wellington Road.
Yeah.
Does a church own the Wellington Road?
Mhm.
So that's a good suggestion. That would certainly be something that we could bring forward.
It would definitely be to the benefit of the town.
Absolutely.
Bucket would that fall under?
That would be either historic
Probably
preservation or open.
Keep in mind that that's a federally and state registered historic district as
But
well.
aren't you creating a document under the history bucket? Aren't you only allowed to preserve?
It'd be for
create this?
preservation purposes.
Of what?
Um,
We preserve?
I have specific examples I could call up, but I don't wanna do that.
Okay.
So, yeah, and we'll have to look at the language we like for, you
Well,
know.
usually when
like-
you guys do surveying, they're part of a bigger project, like when we did the Baptist Common Cemetery, we surveyed it, so we knew where we were putting the appropriate fencing or something,
Mm-hmm.
but this seems just like a surveying alone.
Well, this is such it's kind of like the engineering studies we do.
Yeah.
Until we know where it is, we don't know what we
don't
can
know.
do. And so, but like, you know,
Yeah.
like preserving the common could even include things like soil improvements.
So we don't know.
Got it.
I think, I
Very good.
guess Mike
Could be Parks and Rec project, who knows?
Look at landowners around the common. Actually come up with a, that might be.
I mean, gazebo's clearly a park.
Yeah.
so.
I hear a lot of stories about the land surround, that make up the common or surround the common. Some people have maps that show they own the common. I've been told that before.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to work out all those legalities and get it once and for all, get a clear defined map of what the common is.
And the wells that were on the common. and-
Yep.
Yeah, because one of the projects I've always envisioned was moving the World War I monument so they could
Mhm.
change the corner and make another open space road, but if you, once again, if you don't know, and if it's not recorded.
Yep.
So I think that's a good suggestion for something to consider for next year, and certainly that's something that when we do our annual needs analysis meeting in January, we should make sure we look at the different buckets about what we might be looking to do.
Mhm.
It could be Parks and Rec, project too, because. The Park of the Common comes under Parks
Yeah, I
and
think,
Rec.
yeah, that will, because it's such a multi-use, and then there's gonna be all this, there's always a fight over
Then you
that,
gotta
but,
Well, it's not a fight over it, it's the law of what we were in charge of.
right. Yeah, no, I'm just talking historically.
Yeah, historically, in the whole, all the piecemeals of all the different properties. It's interesting. That there's no deed or no nice record for it.
It could make for a good story and we'll put it in a book and sell copies and
There
then
we go.
fund it.
Find it, there you go. I
Yeah.
know why it
A
was
little
like
more,
that,
yeah.
like the church, like there's many copies of that church because of that designer went at different places and
Well, you know, I think.
he did
If
it.
you hire somebody to do all that work, then somebody that's a writer would,
Yeah,
could glom right onto that.
maybe they,
Do you know any writers?
yeah, do we know anybody?
George?
No, I'm retired.
Okay, now, any other potential projects that you guys would like to bring up this evening? Hearing none, we will now move on to the members' comments section, if anybody else has any comments.
Well,
or-
the only comment I got is a Columbus Day weekend, Tootsie Roll Drive in the common.
Very good. So what does that mean? You gotta drive the other way?
No, well, if you want to stay away from the balls.
Tootsie Roll.
Okay, thank you. Any other member comments?
Just that, North County Land Trust is planning to sponsor a landowners meeting for Templeton,
I know.
Phillipston and Hubbardston. Just so that, landowners that own over a certain number of acres can know about their
Just go down
conservation
West
opportunities.
Jersey Drive, go down Hubbardston Road.
Yeah, they did ask me to speak at that.
Oh, good. Yeah, so they're still looking, they were talking about maybe Hubbardston Senior Center, and I said, well, Templeton has a very nice senior center, and maybe we could have it there. So we'll see. Of course, I shouldn't speak for them because I have no authority over that anyway,
You can
but
Book it with Jackie.
yeah. But anyway, that's coming up in right after Veterans Day, so somewhere in there, right after the 11th.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, keep us posted on that, and then maybe we can even, put it up on TCTV or something.
Yeah,
And I have movie in the park. I have movie in the park this Saturday. Movie will start at dusk, batteries not included. And
that's a fun movie.
bring your chairs and blankets, it's free. Concession stand will be open, cash only, and should be a fun time. We're giving out free glow sticks. If it was to rain, then it would move to the 21st, so we'll see.
Great. So is it like a 90-minute movie?
Yeah, it'll be fun.
if that, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
fun movie.
It's a good movie.
Good one
Cute.
for the kids. Very good. Anybody else with some comments? Suggestions, plugs?
If I make fall town meeting will be October 23rd.
Oh, really?
Oh,
They're in
All
such a
the
big
pins and
hurry.
labels. October 23rd.
Well, yeah, we'll probably have another one.
Yeah, before then.
Okay, yes,
We do have a comment at 7:46 about the time that the board was tracking back to item 5. Barry Adams posted a call to YouTube.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And is that it for comments?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion been made to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Now, oh, I forgot to say, next meeting is October 10th, 7 PM.